obviously I'm not Jewish myself. I don't feel any type of, I live in New York, so
It's fine. I always tell people, I really, as a Jew, I don't understand why all these people are getting involved or caring. Like, if you don't care, I respect that. Not your monkey, not your circus. Why should you care? You're not Jewish, you're not Palestinian, you got your own shit going on. I'm not
yeah,
asking you to care,
yeah. No,
But
I mean, I do, hope that someday, peace can be found between the two. Definitely, like in a perfect world, but
I hear you. I hear you. I hope the same thing. As a Jew, I hope the same thing.
I don't
Not saying,
necessarily take sides, but as a human being, I feel, hopefully one day peace can be reached without the biasness, like just,
I agree with you 100%. I want peace too. I think any rational person would want peace. But that being said, I am totally okay with people not caring. I'm totally fine with that.
yeah,
I don't think everybody needs to care about this conflict. I actually wish less people cared. But
right.
again, like I think the loudest people make themselves sound like they're the majority. But again, there's a big silent minority, a silent majority that's just not loud on the internet or on the streets, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And they're the majority. Not everybody is doing TikTok lives. Not everybody is protesting. Most people are just living their lives, paying their bills, taking care of their kids. They don't have time for all this nonsense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I definitely see it a lot. Driving trucks through the city, obviously you're exposed to a lot of protests, a lot of street blockades
I'm sure
happening.
you don't like the protests because they make your job a lot harder.
They make it tenfold harder because I'm with the Teamster Union, the actual Teamster Union. I'm a truck driver for them, so I'm in the city quite a bit, driving the props to set, and this past year, the amount of blockades that happen, and me being in a truck, alternate routes are limited. So it really it's affecting.
Can I ask you a question? Let me ask you a question. I was always wondering about this, just from random New Yorkers who are not attached to the conflict at all. When these protests like block your route and everything, and make your job harder, because they're pro-Palestinian protests, they're not pro-Israel protests. Does that
Right.
make you want to be more on the Palestinian side or less on the Palestinian side? I'm just curious, just from a standpoint of like, this is bothering your day, this is making your job harder, this is like affecting you. Does this make you sympathize with them more or less sympathize with them less?
In all honesty, like bias aside, a little bit less because there are, we're on my normal route is through East Side Manhattan. So when you congest that area, not only are you affecting, the Teamsters, the truck drivers, but you're affecting thousands of other people commuted in a jam-packed city. So that's not the way to get the point across. You see protests in other states, it's not as bad, but when you protest in Manhattan with 8 million people going about their days, it's frustrating. I've sat on Fifth Ave for hours because of protest, and I'm not making money when we're not getting the set to unload. It comes to a standstill. So in a way, like I understand the protest, but the way they're going about it, especially in the city, it it's not helping the cause because I look around when I'm sitting in traffic, and to say people are pissed is an understatement.
Yeah, I know. I live in New York, and I'm not saying this because I'm like pro-Israel. I'm saying this because I'm a New Yorker, and people are. But I'll tell you, it's the same way in other cities. There was a story I think out of Los Angeles where they blocked traffic to an airport, and someone needed, I guess, the airline needed to do like a donor, or like an organ transplant or something,
Yeah,
and like it missed the flight or something, and someone didn't get their organ or something like that happened.
that's another good point.
Huh?
Yeah, that's another good point too. You're talking about emergency services. I've seen during protests where you got a fire engine and EMTs stuck in traffic because of it, and they're not moving. And, you know, people are always pro-protest, but until you live in a city like New York, where any obstruction can cause catastrophic backup, you know, it will literally, a protest can cripple the city if it's large enough.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a driver. I'm a CDL driver in the city, and I can count multiple times where I've been stuck for hours and then come to find out it's because of a protest in the city. You know, it happens more often than not because I'm on the road all the time. Like, I don't just commute, I commute for a living. I'm always in the truck. You know?
All right. Well, thank you so much. Listen, it was really, 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 you know, insightful to listen to New Yorker, a truck driver. Listen, I love New York.
Yeah, New York's great, you know?
I know a lot of people fled here like during COVID, after COVID, but I'm never, if I have a choice, I'm never leaving New York. Listen, it's got its faults, it's got its problems with the government, but
it's a good city.
Huh?
It's a good city, and you know, unless not everyone's built for New York, that's what it comes down to. The people that hate on New York and think it's this and that, you got to be built for this city. You know, you don't just come here and expect like, oh, this is going to be good. Like, no, you got to have a different mentality to make it here. You know, and it produces strong people, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, thanks so much for joining. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you take care.
Bye-bye.